It's a solution looking for a problem. So
including crypto and cannabis. And
it makes them look smart, but it doesn't. Don't wear a mask. Handling questions and interruptions during a presentation, right? Be as authentic as possible. The ecosystem in the Netherlands, it's thriving. A lot of these events, the speaker slots are bought.
Slippery.
Very interesting conversations behind the scenes with cannabis companies, crypto companies, and companies working in the adult entertainment industry.
Maybe not always 100% tactful.
Asia is always a front runner with metaverse technology, make it this really immersive 3D experience.
That's massive. That's massive.
One word, one sentence, one hand gesture, your entire story goes flat.
We talk, we talk more, we have a couple of drinks.
Really upset the audience, thrilled of having Thrilled Labs as the networking partner, actually facilitating this very important part of the Dutch Blockchain Days. So.
During the Dutch Blockchain Days event on the 19th of June in Amsterdam. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining another Web3 and business interview. Today we have someone Dutch actually with us, someone very, very interesting. His name is Jan Scheele. Jan started experimenting with Bitcoin, AI, and even with blockchain tech already in 2015, so already a little while ago. And he did that mostly based on his role back then in TED events globally. And in fact, Jan has organized over 50 TED events worldwide for very important organizations, right? Including even, that is very, very interesting, an entity such as the United Nations. Jan also coached more than 200 TED speakers during that very time. And based upon that experience, subsequently, Jan set up Talk Like TED Today. That is still open for everyone to look at. And this is fundamentally an entity that works with professionals worldwide, also in the Netherlands, that really want to work on their speaking skills together with Jan, who is then indeed a very expert in his field. And in recent years, Jan has guided hundreds of organizations and even thousands of professionals worldwide, even entrepreneurs as well, all the way from Google to Shell to the Dutch police, and even a well-known Dutch DJ. Alongside that, he also worked with the state secretary and even other politicians. He also has his own blog. I'm sure that we'll hear about that later. That already attracted millions of readers as well. And fundamentally, Jan is also a board member to the Blockchain Netherlands Foundation, which brings together all Dutch blockchain and crypto startups and scale-ups. It's a very, very big ecosystem today. And finally, as if that is not enough in terms of this introduction, Jan has also been involved with blockchain and crypto scale-up Bitcanna, which raised actually a massive amount of money, I must say here as well, which is very impressive, almost 20 million in the past. So as we can gather, Jan has done a lot of things already in his career, and we're very, very pleased and happy and thrilled indeed to have you with us, Jan, here today. Thank you so much for joining.
And many thanks for this invitation and the very extensive introduction. I'm flattered.
I would like to ask you, Jan, your Talk Like TED program today, right, that you're the founder of, it very much focuses on helping professionals really improve their speaking skills. Now, I would like to ask you, Jan, with your extensive experience, as we just heard, both in Web3 and in coaching, right, what are some key best practices that Web3 founders fundamentally must apply, in your opinion, at all times when pitching, for instance? Do you have some tips for us?
For sure, because I've seen many very, very interesting Web3 founders, and of course also in the broader deep tech community, a lot of very interesting speakers and entrepreneurs that are talking about their passion, talking about their product, the company, the startup that they are actually building and growing. Now, there's always a couple key considerations here. The first thing what I see happening is that most of them are so passionate, they're so enthusiastic about their product, about their startup. But the problem is, with a lot of people, in my perspective, in the broader Web3 ecosystem, is that they can't explain it to a little child. You know, like as Einstein always put this beautiful quote together, for them it's quite tough to actually explain in easy words what their startup is about. And what you usually see, and there's a lot of research also about politicians, for example, that are using very tough language, actually. Usually they think it makes them look smart, but it doesn't. Most of the people, only if it's only one word they don't understand, they actually stop listening to your story. So the first thing is always, in my perspective, make it as easy as possible. Make it as easy for people to understand your basic concepts, you know, the way how your product works. Because we see a lot of innovative entrepreneurs that are really focusing a lot on how the technology works. And this is for most people, they just don't understand this. Now, the second thing, and that's also what a lot of people forget, is a lot of people out of enthusiasm, they're really trying to focus on showcasing their product, why they build it, you know, like their enthusiasm, their reasoning behind it. But often people forget to first look who is actually in the audience. Why are people in the audience? Why are the people listening to the speaker? What would they like to get out of the story, etc., etc.? And here you really often see a huge mismatch. So you see a huge mismatch between the story that's being shared and the interest of the audience. So here I think it's always important as well to really align the story with the audience, who is actually in the audience. You know, get out of the filter bubble and to check what is actually important for the audience? You know, what is actually important for my project? What would be of interest for the audience, instead of just bombarding the audience with all kinds of facts and figures and numbers and that kind of stuff. But I also hear back sometimes from audiences. They say like, yeah, he can, you know, like it's interesting presentation, but it seems like it's a solution looking for a problem. So often what you hear back from these audiences is they just don't see the urgency. You know, they don't see the urgency of the product or startup that is being presented to them. So
you've been speaking already a little bit, right? Tapping into how to present oneself, how to connect with an audience, how to include storytelling, perhaps tailoring one's story a little bit to the audience. Now that kind of like brings me also to a next question here. Now you spoke a little bit already, right, in your previous answer about people. You said that very generally, and I appreciate that. I would be very, very curious to ask you a little bit, maybe a provocative question or a provocative kind of topic for some, but generally I would be very curious. Listen, are there differences in coaching needs between men and women? I mean, it's a generalizing kind of question here, so we're on ice that is kind of like slippery, but perhaps you have insights here.
No, I mean, they both have different needs. It's the same. There's a huge difference between nationalities and cultures, and so are between men and women. If I look, for example, to women, you know, like they really might experience challenges related to confidence and self-promotion so much more frequently than men. But if you also, for example, look to the communication style, you know, like social conditioning can really influence the communication styles differently for both men and women. I mean, women, what you see, are often more like socialized to be more collaborative and inclusive in their communication, which can be, in my perspective, a great strength in presentations. Whereas men, they might be encouraged to like adopt a more assertive and authoritative tone, you know. So yeah, there's clear difference. And also, I think last but not least, also at the end of the presentation, or for some also during the presentation, is like handling questions and interruptions during the presentation, right? I mean, what I really clearly see is that often women, they maybe frequently like encounter interruptions, like they really like they respond totally different. They find it challenging to assert really the authority during the Q&A sessions, you know, during the presentations. So they perceive this so differently, in my perspective, compared to men. And of course, not all women, of course, and men are the same. But if I look to the differences between men and women when it comes to challenges within giving a presentation, then these are some examples that I can directly think of. Yeah.
All right, that is absolutely interesting. I recognize a couple of the things that you've mentioned. I do want to tap into a little bit more about, if that's possible, on your Web3 background. Because, of course, as we've heard in the introduction, you have a lot of different experiences and expertises. And you are also a board member, as I've mentioned, of the Blockchain Netherlands Foundation. So what I think is that you arguably have a systemic overview on all things happening in crypto and blockchain in the Netherlands. Now, I'm Dutch, but I've been out of the Netherlands since already quite some time now. Could you share maybe with me and the audience a little bit more about what's the Web3 space like in the Netherlands?
Sure. Now, what I see happening is in my perspective, the Web3 ecosystem in the Netherlands, it's thriving. There's a lot of very interesting, cool startups and skill ups that are developing very interesting solutions, offering products to the market. Are also now, which I think is very interesting, collaborating with traditional financial institutions, working with respected multinationals. So I really think the Dutch ecosystem is thriving. I see it growing. We still see more and more startups that are being launched also in different cities, not just in Amsterdam, but also a lot of activity in Eindhoven, high-tech capital of the world. We see it in the other corners of the Netherlands, in Heerlen, Maastricht, on the other side. In Groningen, there's a couple of really cool companies starting up. So I think it's very cool to see all these developments. It's really, for a lot of people, the center, the hotspot for innovation, especially when it comes to Web3. When we look to the development of the ecosystem, the BCNL Foundation started 6 years ago, organizing smaller scale meetups, where mostly, let's say, the core developers, you know, like the people that just got into the technology gathered. But now, if I look to the different layers of events that we as foundation are organizing, everybody's coming together. It's not just the developers, but it are also the politicians, the regulators, the big corporates, consultants, educators. You know, like everybody is coming together. What I really appreciate is this Dutch mentality. You know, like we're working together, we're supporting each other, so yeah, I think, like closing words, I really think the Dutch ecosystem is thriving. Of course, there's also a little negative side when it comes to the crypto startups that left the Netherlands because of the very tight regulation that came from the Dutch government. But now we see the MiCAR actually entering the European scene. We see that actually this stopped, and actually more and more crypto companies are also starting up in the Netherlands again. So I think that's quite positive. finalizing your question about the events, as foundation, we organize actually most of the Web3 events in different layers. So we are still organizing local meetups. We do organize trade missions. And last but not least, we're also very proudly organizing the 2 flagship events, the Dutch Blockchain Days, Dutch Blockchain Week, where the week is actually taking place at the end of the year in November. And the Dutch Blockchain Days, it's the largest Web3 event of the Netherlands, is taking place in June. So we're really looking forward to that already. So yeah, I'm really happy with all this progression and all the enthusiasm that we receive from all the collaborating partners.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. You tapped into maybe a few of the downsides of having the company in the Netherlands, or at least how it might have been in the last few years with a little bit of more rigid regulation and so on. Now, that actually showcases that you're very direct and honest, and that is something I think that Dutch people tend to do, and it's actually kind of brings me to the next question, right? We tend to be very direct, maybe not always 100% tactful and implicit in our speaking, in our endeavors, in our collaborations, whilst always sincere, right? But still, Jan, what are your thoughts on this? Is it something distinctive of the Netherlands that you perhaps actively seek to coach people on, you work with, especially perhaps those that operate in an international context? Or do you leave this cultural kind of heritage outside of your approach?
Now, there's 2 answers to your question. I think the first question is quite important, that in my perspective, people that are telling a story, they should also always do this in a very natural way. So be as authentic as possible. Don't wear a mask, but just tell the story in the way they would like to tell the story. So if people are very direct, then let them be very direct. Like don't oblige them to change their course of speaking, the way of speaking, the tone of speaking, and that kind of stuff. Because then what you see happen quite fast is that, like, as audience, you'll recognize that the speaker is not being very authentic. So I always advise speakers, to be as authentic as possible. So if a speaker is very direct, then let's let him be very direct, right? In the end, you will see that also from all the nonverbal signals during a presentation that, it will really complement it if he is as authentic as possible. But second thing, what you mentioned, I also work with a lot of clients that are speaking to for like more international audiences. That includes guests from Asia, from the US, from Africa, and so forth. And here, it's very important, of course, to also take this into consideration, because what I see happening sometimes is that people are making certain jokes or hand gestures or whatever that can really upset the audience. So if you don't think about this, you can have a nice story, but if you're already if you're just using that hand signal or be very direct at the beginning, part of the audience, they can directly already, stop listening to your story. One word, one sentence, one hand gesture, your entire story goes flat because people, they don't want to listen anymore.
I recently read, I'm sure that you know this book, The Culture Map. It very much looks at business relations and business approaches globally, right? Just because I always find it extremely interesting how cultures are different and how cultures can impact business relationships and business approaches. And what you've just said here is to a great extent also echoed in this book. So it's interesting to hear the assumptions of the author actually reflected in your daily practice. Now, just bringing together, right, the Web3 part, the business part, and in fact, even the Dutch part. You have been the CEO of BitCana. Would happy to hear a little bit more about that. As far as I've understood, this is still a company operating today at the intersection of the payments infrastructure on the one side and the cannabis industry on the other side. I'm sure this is too easily put. Happy to understand more of that. But what I would really want to ask you here, if that's possible, you worked, right, with people globally, but also with those from traditional industries, including from law enforcement, even politicians. What have you learned in your experience about raising awareness about this kind of like progressive topics, right, including crypto and cannabis? And would you have anything to share?
Yeah, I love to share, actually. Let me start with saying that I had an incredible time with BitCana. It started from the industry, the cannabis industry. And I think BitCana is a great example where the technology really can make a difference. If you look to a couple of huge challenges from the industry, BitCana is tackling it with its platform. When it comes to privacy, when it comes to payments, online and offline, supply chain tracking, there's so many exciting developments and functions within the platform. I think it says enough that we raised a considerable amount of money during a bear market, I think 5-6 years ago. Wow. I think it's great, again, convergence between markets, right? We have a fast-growing market in cannabis, and it's not just the cannabis that people smoke, but mostly also CBD medicines and so forth. It's a market that will grow like 6-fold in the upcoming years with all the countries that are now legalizing it. And then, of course, we have the technology side with regards to cryptos and blockchain and NFTs, etc. That is providing a way to also make this industry much more transparent. And I think when you look at all these traditional financial institutions and regulators, etc., there was a very mixed response. First of all, and I think that was quite interesting, is that the regulators, they were very interested in the product. Why? Because cannabis has a transparency problem, and with this platform, with this product, we finally made the market like more transparent. So they were very eager to see what we were actually building and offering towards the industry. The industry itself was also very interesting, because what you see nowadays in the traditional financial institutions, banks, but also PayPal, credit cards, etc., they are literally canceling bank accounts from mostly cannabis companies, crypto companies, and companies working in the adult entertainment industry. So you can be like a cannabis company that is selling millions of euros of legal products, but still banks are canceling your bank account within 2 weeks. It's ridiculous. So it was quite interesting to see the response from the traditional financial institutions, right? We raised a lot of money, but we were not able to get a bank account in almost all of the European countries. In the end, it's interesting to see like the continuous battle between crypto companies and traditional financial institutions. It's tough. I have very interesting conversations behind the scenes with these traditional financial institutions, like, why are you guys doing this? Why are you making it so tough? And there are some very interesting thoughts. It's not always like, it's not always them actually that is, like really making it very tough. It's mostly like also the other regulators that are actually obliging them or preventing them from offering these financial products. But different responses from both the regulators on the national and European scale and the traditional organizations like the banks. Yeah.
That's very, very interesting. I would like to ask a range of follow-up questions, but something tells me that perhaps you are not able to offer in this show all the answers, not only due to time, but also due to the fact that, let's be honest, it is quite a sensitive topic, and that is actually, I think, why it's so interesting to have this type of conversation and to learn a little bit more about your experience. I'll make sure to tap you on your shoulder next time that we meet in real life, and I will follow up on this.
That's the Watching Days, where you are a very, very valuable partner. We're really excited to have Frilt Labs as our partner that is actually providing, some people will say, the most important part of the event. I'm really working hard on the program and with the entire team on building the event. But if you look to a lot of research and response from the audience, a lot of people, they would also always say that networking is the most important part of an event. So we're we're thrilled of having Frilt Labs as the networking partner, actually facilitating this very important part of the Dutch Watching Days. So
that's massive. That's massive. Thank you so much for saying not only these kind words, it's much appreciated, but also by basically you just provided the bridge to the next question. I was just thinking in my mind how I'm going to bridge cannabis to events back, and I thought, how to do that. I was talking my way towards it, but then you just did it for me. So thank you so much. It brings me to my next question, talking about events, Jan. I mean, we know that you have literally immersed yourself in emerging tech, right? For so many different years now. And I would like to ask you actually a bit about how do you see the future of events coming to life, or not at all? Because, right, we have these events. They're lovely, don't get me wrong. I love events. Frilt Labs loves events, but they're sometimes a bit static, right? There's an event venue. We all go there. We join. We get our badge. We talk. We go to a range of presentations. Lovely. We talk more. We have a couple of drinks. We chat more. We do business and so on. But with all this tech happening globally, right? Metaverse, AI, you name it. Do you think that the way in which we engage with events globally might change over the next few years?
There's 3 answers here. I think the first answer is what you see with a lot of events, and this is within the Web3 ecosystem, but also more in general, is that with a lot of these events, the speaker slots are bought. So I think that's also a huge difference when you look, for example, at the Dutch Watching Days. Here we focus on the ideas, the core ideas that we would like to showcase on our stage. Based on that, we're going to look for the best speakers, and we invite them. So we really look into topics instead of who's paying us and we're going to put a speaker on stage. I think this is already massively increasing the quality of the program. Now, the second thing, if you look more to the events themselves, I think events are so vital for the ecosystem, because it makes it actually possible for people who are interested in joining the ecosystem, who are interested in Web3 technologies, to easily get in touch, to get up to speed, to connect with people who are already active in the ecosystem. So I think events are so important to grow, develop, expand the ecosystem. The importance of these events is rising and rising, especially with a new technology like Web3. Now, the type of event, I think that's a last and third answer, is nowadays, what I see, because I also run an event agency, is that nobody wants to attend or organize a virtual event anymore, because everybody wants to have this physical personal connection. But what you see happening now, Asia is always a front runner with respect to these kind of things. And what you see happening now in Asia, for example, is a lot of music festivals, but also regular conferences that are really kind of being the virtual events that we know. So like these big Zoom calls or big team calls where everybody's just joining. Now really with metaverse technology, make it this really immersive 3D experience. So yeah, I think in maybe 1-2 years, we will also see back all these virtual events here in Europe, here in the Netherlands, but then with like really improved quality of graphics, make it more easy for people to walk around in 3D worlds, create their own avatar, etc.
To an extent, what I really appreciate about the virtual events is that they, to an extent, very much democratize access, not only to knowledge, but also to grow as a person yourself, right? In terms of how you promote your company, how you're speaking, how you're sharing your knowledge and education. So I think that is absolutely lovely, apart from the environmental aspect. Now, we've discussed a lot, right? All the way from cannabis to crypto in the Netherlands, to your experience working for TED, now being a coach since many, many years yourself, having worked with people like from politicians to builders to people from all over the world. I'm so grateful for your time joining today and for all the tips that you shared. I would like to thank you so much, Jan, for your support, not only for the Web3 and business show here on YouTube, but also for Troll Labs itself. It's much appreciated. I'm looking forward to catching up during the Dutch Blockchain Days event on the 19th of June in Amsterdam. Thank you so much.
And many thanks again for the very kind invitation. It was a pleasure being here with you today.
Likewise. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Right. Have a good day.